Hey guys, welcome back to Crows Before Bros. I'm Randy and I run this channel with my best friend Lauren, where we talk about books and bookish things and what we've been reading and what we've not been reading, I guess. I saw a video from another booktuber, Sam Talks Books, where she talked about the books that she hasn't read yet and why, and I was like, man, I've got a lot of those. My TBR is like 600 books long. So let's talk about some of the books that have been sitting on there for a hot minute. Starting off, let's clear away some of the easy ones. I've talked about ACOTAR on this channel before and how I felt like it was just fine and it just didn't do for me what it did for a lot of other people, and it's for this exact same reason that I've not picked up the Throne of Glass series or the Crescent City books. I've had a few friends tell me that I'd like these Sarah J Maas books more than I liked ACOTAR, but I feel like the writing style of ACOTAR is partially what wasn't doing it for me in the pacing, so I struggle with the idea of picking up these other books. Even though I do eventually want to give her another chance, I get that like one series is not indicative of like a writer's entire career, but I still worry that this kind of desire for more is going to follow me into these other series. Also, adding to my hesitancy is that there appears to be approximately 1 trillion Throne of Glass books, and the Crescent City books are as wide as my head. So like, that is a lot of book if I don't end up liking it very much. Speaking of 1 trillion books, a series that has been on my list for the last well over decade of my life is the Cassandra Clare Mortal Instruments universe. I had it in my mind that I was going to read all 26 of them this summer. I've read probably 9 books this summer and none of them were Cassandra Clare books. I'm pretty sure I even own a physical copy of City of Bones. If I go to my mom's and I go through like my old bookshelf and that, I think it's there. And I never even read it as a kid. They just feel so daunting to me. I think part of the reason that I keep putting it off is that if I read these books when I was 16 and really into like supernatural, I was a Tumblr Super Hulock girl, so like I think I would have been really into these books then. I worry that I won't be as into them now. I'm a little worried I just missed the train on this one. Especially because reading Shatter Me at this age was a bit of a gong show. It's the kind of book that I really would have loved when I was younger and really hated as an adult, and I think it's possible that this series will follow that train of thought, but I still want to give them a shot. I've also not read Fourth Wing by Rebecca Yarros yet. I know I'm like a booktuber and everybody's read this book and everyone's talking about it, and I think that's why I've held back from picking it up. I think when there's a bit too much hype for something, I get turned off of it a little bit. I just doubt that these things that get so hyped up can be as good as people want me to think it is. My first impression of Fourth Wing, as somebody who hasn't read it yet, is that it feels like somebody took all the marketable bits of everyone's favorite like romantasy series and just like threw it all in one book to make it like as successful as possible. Also, my Magic 8 Ball told me the outlook on that one wasn't good. Should I read Fourth Wing? Outlook, not so good. And I trust my Magic 8 Ball more than Book Talk at this moment. I do want to read it eventually, but probably once some of this hype dies down and the world starts to move on. In the realm of books with a lot of hype, we're coming to Taylor Jenkins Reid. So I have read The 7 Husbands of Evelyn Hugo, but I haven't read any other ones. So I haven't read Carrie Soto or Daisy Jones or Malibu Rising or One True Loves. She's another really loved author, but a little different for me than, say, Sarah J Maas, because I did enjoy Evelyn Hugo well enough. Maybe not to the same degree as the rest of the world. I feel like with the amount of hype for Evelyn Hugo, I went into it thinking this book was going to change my life, and instead I was like, this was a good story. Part of that probably also comes from having seen so many spoilers online before ever picking up the book, so I kind of knew what the big twist there was. But again, there's just so much hype around this author that I'm a bit hesitant to pick up the rest of these books that also get a lot of love. Next is Things We Never Got Over by Lucy Score. I've had this one on my e-reader for well over a year at this point, and every couple months I think, man, I need a palate cleanser from whatever big fantasy I just read, or I just read a really heavy book and I just need a romance to tie it all together and refresh me going forward, right? And when I need one of these palette cleansers, I inevitably open Things We Never Got Over by Lucy Score on my e-reader, see that it is 634 pages, and promptly shut the e-reader. No romance book has business being that long. Stay in your lane. What do you possibly have to say? It's one of those books that's been popular for a while, but I genuinely have no concept of what it's about. Maybe a twin? I feel like I've maybe just seen like detached quotes from the book and I have no idea what it's about. I know that a lot of people really love it though. One day I'll probably sit down and actually conquer this book, but it's just, I've not been able to dedicate myself to that long of a romance read. It's literally twice as long as it needs to be. A Little Life by Hanya Yanagihara has also been on my list for a long time, and here's my entire understanding of it. It is very, very long, and it is very, very sad. I have a history of avoiding books that are going to shatter what fragile hold of joy I have in this world. So even though I do want to read this one, the story sounds great. It sounds like something I would genuinely love. I hate being sad, so I've just avoided it. I've also not gone to Leigh Bardugo's Hellbent yet. I read Ninth House in late 2021 and I enjoyed it a lot, but I had no idea what was happening in that book, quite frankly. As a result, it's almost 2 years later and my absolute garbage dump of a brain has not retained any bit of this plot. I honestly don't really want to reread Ninth House. I'll have to find some article or something that recaps the whole book for me. I see a lot of people reading Hellbent online and using it in their reels and TikToks about books, and it's rare that I have FOMO, but I do have a little bit of FOMO on this one. So I will pick it up eventually, but I feel like I don't have the prerequisite information despite having literally read the book that comes before it. I'm gonna sprinkle in a nonfic in here, which is a special little addition because I don't read a lot of nonfic, but I have been picking them up more recently, and Atomic Habits by James Clear has been on my list for probably 5 years at this point. We even own a copy of it. My husband has read it, he really enjoyed it, he thinks I'd like it. I have lots of friends who have read it and think that I would like it. I'm a fairly goal-driven, habit-driven person. In theory, a book that helps with the idea of habits and achieving goals is right up my alley. Problem is that I sit and read in the same way that people binge watch their favorite sitcoms. I'm doing it to escape and to feel comfortable and sit in worlds and characters that are detached from mine, and nonfiction doesn't do that. It's harder for me to put my brain into nonfiction mode. There was a point in time where I read probably more nonfiction than I did fiction. But I've been working pretty hard this year to intersperse more nonfiction into my reading. I've read 5 now this year, and even though I'm incredibly picky about what I am picking up for nonfiction, I think that this is one that is going to do something for me. I'm hoping to pick it up in the fall, but I said that about the Cassandra Clare books. So the last one I'm going to talk about today is Iron Widow by Ziran J. Xiao, which I might be saying wrong, very sorry. I'm so excited for this one. It's been recommended to me specifically by other people who have very similar tastes in reading to me. It sounds like something I would love. There are so many aspects of this book that really excite me. There's a very distinct reason I haven't read this one yet. So I use the library to take out books on my e-reader. I've heard this book is great on audiobook for helping readers understand pronunciation of characters' names, which is important to me because I hate when you've been reading a series for 4 years and you think that dad's name is Carlisle. However, I am a terrible audiobook listener. I'm the worst. I get really sucked into the tone of people's voice and don't process any of the words that they're saying. I just sit there and I'm like,
her arms were cut off, her legs were cut off, everything was in hell.
I feel like I'm mentally drifting away most of the time that I'm listening to an audiobook, and part of that probably comes down to the fact that I always think I can multitask while I listen to audiobooks, and I simply cannot. So my solution to this is that I have a hold on the audiobook and a hold on the digital version of this book. I've been waiting for my holds to magically align so that I can have the audio and the digital at the same time and listen and follow along for the first couple chapters so that I can talk about the characters and honor them without feeling a fool and not knowing how to say their names. There's honestly so many books that have sat on my TBR for ages. I could go on and on. I haven't read They Both Die at the End. I haven't read Guild. I haven't read Way of Kings or Mistborn or any of these books. I always feel like I can't keep up with books that I'm putting on my TBR. I think 3 years ago I posted a thing being like, oh no, I maxed out my holds. What am I gonna do? Now that I have 40 books on my wait list. And now I have always maxed out my holds, and I have a separate wish list tag of things to put on hold once I've taken things off of my hold list. And that list is 635 books long. Even when I was reading a lot faster, my TBR didn't seem to clear any faster. I just found more books I wanted to read. If there's any books that you think that I should prioritize in this list, drop a comment below or let me know about those sad, dusty books that have sat on your TBR for ages and ages and for some reason you just can't bring yourself to get to it. As always, like, comment, subscribe, blah, 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 YouTube stuff. We love you guys. We'll see you next time. Bye!